Welcome back to our channel here at Vagabond Builds with James and Sandu, and today we're going to be bringing you a do-it-yourself video on a brake pad change on a 2019 Volkswagen Jetta, and this is the R line, but this is going to be good from 2019 and newer or to current based on the post of this video. But we're going to be changing the front brake pads, we're going to be changing the back brake pads, and also the brake pad sensor. This is what the brake pads look like. Right, you can head over to your nearest auto parts store, wherever you're at, maybe like O'Reilly or Napa Auto Parts, or we get our stuff from Foreign Parts Specialties because they give us original OEM rated parts at the best price that I have found on market. So we're going to do a step-by-step tutorial here at Vagabond Builds with James and Sandu. But before we even start, please tap that like button and subscribe to our channel. Here's our email below. Email us and we can talk details later if you got something for us to film. Let's go ahead and dive in. So we're going to go ahead and dive in and show you guys step-by-step tutorial of how to change your brake pads on the 2019 Volkswagen Jettas and newer. Pretty simple, straight to the point. If you want to do it at home, you just need a regular tool kit. We got our tool set from DeWalt. I've been having that. If you guys have been following our channel, that's what I use. So let's go ahead and dive in and teach you guys how to change your brake pads. So I went ahead and already pulled off these plastic caps. So this is Volkswagen, all right? And you're gonna have these caps right over your lug nuts, okay? Now, this piece here, this is a Volkswagen piece or little tool or hook that you're going to get inside your car. You should have one in your little toolkit. And the way you're going to go ahead and pull these caps off is you're going to go ahead and put that hook in there, pick up, and you're gonna pull towards you, just like that. And then it opens us up to the lug nuts. Now, the tools you're gonna need for this job is a size 17. I have a breaker bar instead of a tire iron, but I use my breaker bar. We're gonna go ahead and this. Now, before we continue forward, I wanted to make sure that you guys do have a safety stand. So we're gonna go ahead and lift the car, and make sure you lift the car on the seam or the frame itself. Under the car, you're gonna see a little seam there, and you wanna make sure that you lift the car by the frame or the seam. Sometimes cars will have specific designated areas when lifting. You just wanna make sure you're looking for that. All right, before I completely lift it off the ground, I'm going to release these lug nuts because I don't like that tire turning on the gear of the transmission. And I'll show you guys that a little later. Okay, now that they're all loose, we're gonna go ahead and lift. Now, tire is slightly off the ground, and this is what I meant. When you go ahead and turn like this, it kind of turns with the gear of the transmission. I don't like to do that, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep the tire on the floor, loosen the lug nuts, and then lift, and then take off the lug nuts. Now we're opened to the brake pad area. This is your brake caliber. The pads are in there. And this is what the pads are going to look like. Okay. Now, before I go ahead and loosen that brake caliber, what I like to do is kind of a shortcut. Instead of taking off the caliber and compressing the piston with a C-clamp or a special tool, what I do is I use flatheads, and I actually just stick it right in there and try to pull that caliber so what you're mainly doing is this caliber is compressing that piston right there, and I'm pulling that flathead towards me, and what it does is it creates space for the new brake pads to come on. All right. Sometimes you can put them right there in the center of the rotor, but on this exact Volkswagen Jetta, I actually have to put it onto the brake pad itself and pull, which is completely compressed. So you can go about this two ways. You can take off this whole caliber with 2 size 21 screws, or you can go ahead and take off just that top piece of that caliber, and I believe it is, so size 13 will take off just the top piece, and you can actually slide it up. But what I wanted to show you guys is the size 21 can go ahead and take off these big bolts there, and you can actually take off this whole caliber. Sometimes people change them that way. Depending on the car, I like to either do this way or the other way. Now on this Jetta itself, I'm just going to loosen these bolts. Now, when you're doing that, make sure you don't grab this rubber, because you don't want to break that rubber boot, because there's grease in there for those guide pins. I took off. Let's go ahead and remove the bottom one. Okay. So I kept the top one on, and the reason being is because I'm just going to slide this up, or maybe let's just go ahead and take it both off, because see, every car is slightly different. Sometimes these brake lines will stop it from sliding, but this is the cylinder right here that I was telling you guys about. This actually has to get compressed in, so it opens up to you the new space for those new brake calipers. And this is actually pretty worn down. Still had some life left, but not as much. Okay, they started squeaking and grinding, but look at this one. Wowzers. This is super bad. You guys can see it almost, pretty much almost to metal. It's actually a very bad one, but look at that. Okay, compared to the new one. See that? Okay. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and install them the same exact way we took them off. Okay, so I put them on backwards, but what I wanted to show you guys is they want to be curved parallel along the edge of that rotor, and make sure that here in the center of the rotor, your brake pad isn't touching there as well. So all I had to do was flip it over. A lot of other brake pads will be very evident that there are certain ways, but these are slightly almost confusing because they kind of have a curvature on both sides. Okay, make sure that they're flush and they fit nice and snug. And then we're gonna go ahead and slide this top piece caliber, and this is where you're gonna see if you compressed that piston enough right there, and we didn't compress it enough. So what we're going to do is we're going to remove that brake caliber, we're going to put it back on, just hold it there, and we're going to compress that piston just a little bit more. Okay, now piston is completely compressed and flush. We're gonna put that brake pad back on. Nice and flush and snug. Put that back on. Put your size 13 bolt on. All right, make sure those are tight. That's not spinning and they're snug. Remember, lefty-loosey, righty-tighty on the bolts. Okay, don't forget that. That is a rule of thumb when you're undoing bolts. This is a brake wear sensor, but this exact model did not come with the brake wear sensor, so we're not going to be installing that. And the place that it goes would be right here if you do have a brake wear sensor, okay? And you would actually be plugging it in. But again, this model did not have it, so we're not going to be installing it. Now we're pretty much done with the front brake pads. We're gonna put that tire back on the exact same way we took it off, and then we're gonna shoot over to the back and show you guys that. All right, so now we're in the back, and we're gonna show you guys the step-by-step for the back pads or the rear pads of the car. We're gonna follow the same exact steps. Make sure that your safety is under the car, jack is under the car, and you're jacking it from a safe place. Then we're gonna remove the caps, remove the lug nuts, remove the tires, and then continue forward. Okay, so now we're here in the back. This is gonna be a slightly different process. Reason being is because the brake caliper is different. You got the clips. We're gonna have to remove those as well. And the cylinder itself does not compress the same way that it does in the front. This is actually a twist or a turn compression cylinder. So as we're going to backtrack the cylinder with our special handy dandy tool, it's going to go ahead and compress by itself, and then we're going to go ahead and remove those brake pads. Now, way we're doing it here is you're going to use one of these flatheads, remove these two caps, you're going to need a size 7 Allen wrench, 7mm Allen wrench, and these are the two bolts that we're going to release. Okay, now we remove these. We're going to remove oops, that's the old one. We're gonna go ahead and lift this caliper up now. Now it's completely released. This is a different system, is what I was telling you about. We're gonna go ahead and grab our handy dandy tool, and see those little notches there? You could actually rent a specific tool like this or similar to this from your nearest auto parts store. If you don't want to rent them and you want to buy them, you can look on Amazon or eBay. But this actually will compress if you go ahead and just turn. Okay, you're gonna keep twisting until it stops. Just like that. We can no longer twist anymore, and now the cylinder is compressed completely. What we're going to do is we're gonna go ahead and change these old brake pads. That's what they look like. Oh, excessive heat actually cracks that ceramic material. And we are now going to replace the old ones with the new ones. Check that out. we're going to go ahead and set the pads in place. So they kind of just self-explanatory. These ones you can't actually mess up as much, but one thing that I want to point out to you guys is see how the rear pad comes with that little notch inside, and that's going to be for the new spring. You're going to slide that over that notch. All right, make sure it's nice and snug and tight, and that's what it looks like. And that one goes to the rear, okay? So it's going to look like that. Now we're going to go ahead and place them back on. Place the caliper back on, make sure everything's nice, snug, and tight. What you're gonna have to do is kind of lift evenly and then go ahead and try to slide that caliper on. All right, that is what it's going to look like with that new little spring there. And you wanna make sure that your bolts line up. You make sure they're nice, snug, and tight. So these are tight. Now you're gonna have a little bit of play in that caliper, and that's gonna remind you that you gotta put this little bracket on, and it goes under, just like that. We're gonna put that under as well, and you're gonna push from the bottom of that, and set that in, just like that. And now you're completely done with this brake pad setup in the rear. We're gonna put these two plastic caps back on, don't forget that. Double check everything is nice, snug, and tight. We're gonna go ahead and put that tire back on the same exact way we took it off. And we're gonna finish off with this video, guys, here at Vagabond Builds with James and Sandu. Check out our other videos with regards to installations, product, and car reviews here at Vagabond Builds. Thank you, and God bless.